So here I am now again, ready to talk about the new weekly Shonen Jump title and give it my first thoughts. I do this for every single series and I've been doing it for the past 3 years, and while looking at my competitors, I've noticed that there's two kinds of series when it comes to their exposure on YouTube. Either it's a series where you won't even find this video because everyone and their mother has released a video during the first couple of weeks, or it's a series where I'll look up a month or two later and I only find my video and two others, and one of them is in French. Sometimes it can be hard to figure out which category a series is going to fall in before their release, but in the case of this week's, I have no doubt about it that it will be one of the most hyped and talked about series of the entire year. That's all because Astro Royale is by a returning veteran, and new manga by successful mangaka are always interesting to watch, even if they end up flopping. It's fun to see what they come up with after their previous successes, if they double down on the style that made them popular, or if they drift off to something new. But Astro Royale is even more interesting because it's not by returning Jump mangaka, but rather by Ken Wakui, which is a mangaka that has been working on a rival company, Kodansha, for almost 20 years, starting with 2005's Shinjuku Shwan in Weekly Young Jump, and in 2017 he had the massive success of Tokyo Revengers in Weekly Shonen magazine. Tokyo Revengers is an interesting manga to follow up, because when I returned to the manga community in around 2019, it was one of the most popular up-and-coming shonens that wasn't from Shonen Jump. People loved the series and became more and more popular over the next few years, but Tokyo Revengers nowadays is more synonymous with a bad manga. A bad final arc that everyone agrees is bad absolutely soiled the legacy of Tokyo Revengers. There's a lot part of the community that's saying the Astro Royale is trash even before it came out or even before they're reading it, because Tokyo Revengers is bad, ignoring that the manga was pretty loved for almost 200 chapters. Now, I use this excuse to finally get into Tokyo Revengers because I hadn't, and while I'm not finished yet, I'm currently in the midway through the final arc, and I can definitely see why people don't like it. I still have to say that there's definitely a good series inside Tokyo Revengers. So while the series is definitely drifting off where I'm at, I don't think that's a sign that Tokyo Revengers is going to be bad. If anything, it showed me Ken Wakui can write good stuff. So with that all out of the way, how's Astro Royale? Is it good? Is it bad? Well, let's find out. So Astro Royale is not following delinquents, but Yakuza family. Ibaru Yatsuguri, the main character, is the singular legitimate son of the previous boss who just ended up passing away at the beginning of the manga. Despite that, there's actually at least 12 adopted sons, of which we meet a couple throughout this chapter, the main ones being Shion, the first adopted son that most people think is going to be the next boss, and the 12th son, Teratsu, which is the main character's best friend and the protagonist of this chapter. The first half of this chapter reads normally with us getting a backstory of Ibaru's dad, who's essentially the dad from the retry, as he builds a Yakuza family with no illegal crimes whatsoever, which I think is impossible. And before he passed away, he nominated Ibaru to be the next boss, and Teratsu to be his second in command, the underboss, because he thinks they are the only ones who can continue this Yakuza family without falling into a crime organization. However, they are the only two that hear him say that, which means that there's no way that the family can confirm it to be true, which I'm sure will lead to all the other sons trying to be the next boss in the next following chapters. That doesn't matter though, because Ibaru ends up lying anyways and say that his dad nominated Teratsu as the new boss, which nobody believes. Ibaru tells Teratsu that he chose him because he's smarter and a better boss than Ibaru would ever be, and that he thinks that his dad would agree and accept the terms. That also doesn't matter though, because we are now on the second half of the chapter and everything is about to change. It starts with a meteor shower that was hinted at the beginning of the chapter, and it is said that whoever wishes for something and is holding an object that is dear to them will get their wish come true, which the main character does. He holds the pen that was given by his father and he wishes to be the strongest Yakuza ever. But instead of getting his wish come true, he gets a meteor to the face. This motion throws an entire building on top of Ibaru, but he's pushed and saved by Teratsu, which sadly gets stuck below it. But it seems that the wishing wasn't for naught, as he manages to gain a power that turns its arm into a bullet, and he is able to push the building away and save Teratsu. Chapter ends with the reveal that the meteorites have done a ton of damage and the city is basically destroyed, so Astro Royale is a post-apocalyptic Yakuza battle shonen. That's gonna be fun. When the announcement of the manga came out and it was described as a supernatural delinquent manga, I think everyone expected this to be Tokyo Revengers 2.0. But it does seem like it's going to be fairly different, even if the topic of gangs fighting will play a major role. That said, I was a little bit afraid of this manga being a battle shonen coming into it. That's because reading Tokyo Revengers, I don't think it really has good fights, at least not when it comes to being visually or choreographically good. They are intense and have great stakes and great storytelling, but I think it works because Tokyo Revengers is not a battle shonen. If this becomes one, which with the panels showing that there's a lot more people with powers, I do believe it will, I'm wary of the quality of the fights, but I'd love to be proven wrong. Other than that, I think the manga can be fun. Post-apocalyptic Yakuza gangs is a fresh idea, so I kinda want to see what Ken Wakui does with the concept, because we really didn't get to see much out of it in this chapter. The rest, well, I thought was fine. The characters were a bit cliche, but I thought were fine. In the art, I know a lot of people don't like it. I think it is good enough and does the job, and I know that Ken Wakui is especially good when it comes to drawing faces and especially emotions. But at the end of the day, while I think the chapter was good enough to keep me engaged, and I think it has a lot of potential to be a really good manga, I can't say I love the first chapter like I do with a couple of series. That said, do I think it will survive? I think it will, at least for a little while. While yes, Shonen Jump is known for canceling even the most successful of mangaka, just look at Samurai 8, when it comes to people of recognition like Ken Wakui and even Kishimoto while we're at it, they at least tend to wait a bit to see how people receive it. So don't expect this manga to end in like 17 to 18 chapters unless something really backfires, but maybe 30 to 40? Sure, we'll have to see. But that's all for Astro Royale. If you want to know my first thoughts on the previous series in Jump, click the playlist on the left, and if you want to see my first thoughts on future series, then consider subscribing. And if you watched this video here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.